I watched them all the time. I think I watched Indiana State and Iowa. Caitlin Clark play about the same last year, so I was watching a lot of basketball.
Caitlin Clark finally stood up for herself. No more staying quiet.
Like, can we get Caitlin Clark a little protection out?
Anybody that does something flagrant to this young lady for what she's brought to the game should be suspended and fined big time.
What happens when one of basketball's all-time legends watches the WNBA's brightest young sensation become the target of questionable on-court behavior? That's exactly what has the basketball community buzzing after Larry Bird reportedly shared explosive thoughts about Alyssa Thomas's treatment of Caitlin Clark. But before we dive into that, ask yourself this. Can you remember another elite athlete who has faced the kind of relentless attention and physical targeting that Caitlin Clark has experienced since entering the professional game? According to this perspective, everything changed for Larry Bird after watching that matchup involving the Phoenix Mercury. What he witnessed forced him to look at today's WNBA through a completely different lens. And that shift in opinion is precisely why Alyssa Thomas has become the center of so much discussion. Bird understands Clark's situation better than most. During the 1980s, he was the league's dominant star, competing against incredibly talented opponents who often tried to neutralize him with physical play when they couldn't outmatch his basketball intelligence. Yet Bird emphasized that there is a clear line between hard-nosed competition and something entirely different. That distinction is what makes the current debate surrounding Alyssa Thomas so compelling. Having experienced the intensity of championship-level basketball firsthand, Bird knows the difference between fierce, physical competition and what he believes he witnessed involving Clark. He reportedly described the incident as one of the most cowardly displays he has seen on a basketball court in decades. Yes, you heard that correctly.
Look at that. Boom. Look at her put her knee into Caitlin Clark's groin. Right there on that play, right? I mean, this is gross right there.
Larry Bird reportedly reacted immediately after watching the footage of Alyssa Thomas shoving Caitlin Clark from behind while Clark was still recovering from being poked in the eye. Few people understand genuine competitive intensity better than Bird. Throughout his Hall of Fame career, he battled some of basketball's toughest defenders, including players like Dennis Rodman and Bill Laimbeer. Because of those experiences, Bird knows exactly where the line between hard competition and unacceptable conduct should be. From his perspective, what happened crossed that line. But the part that stood out most to Bird wasn't simply the shove itself, it was the timing. According to this account, that detail became the foundation of his strongest criticism of Alyssa Thomas. Before we continue, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, back to the story. Bird reportedly voiced what countless fans had been thinking for days, but few people with his stature had publicly expressed. In his view, there is a major difference between playing aggressive, championship-caliber defense and taking advantage of an opponent who is vulnerable and unable to defend themselves. He often points to the era he played in as one of the toughest periods in NBA history. Physical battles were expected, but players faced each other directly. If there was a conflict, it happened face-to-face, not by striking someone who wasn't prepared. That, according to Bird, is what made the incident so difficult to accept. His criticism didn't stop there. Bird was also reportedly frustrated by Alyssa Thomas's reaction after the controversy erupted. Instead of acknowledging that she may have crossed the line or showing any remorse, she suggested that the backlash from fans and the media was unfair, saying, "Damned if I do, damned if I don't." Those comments reportedly only intensified Bird's disappointment. In his view, the greatest players in basketball history earn respect by taking responsibility for their actions, especially when another player's safety could have been put at risk. Bird reportedly believed that refusing to accept accountability and instead portraying oneself as the victim reflects the mindset of competitors who know they are falling short against the very best.
Knee in the groin, fist on the throat. They hate that white girl. Look at this. She falls down. Here comes Alyssa Thomas, knee in the groin. And here she comes, fist on the throat. Knee in the groin, fist on the throat. Alyssa Thomas doing what Alyssa Thomas does, showing what a talentless hack she is.
Bird believed that when some opponents couldn't match Clark's basketball ability, they looked for other ways to gain an advantage. Viewed from that perspective, his criticism suggested that relying on questionable tactics is often a sign that a player cannot consistently compete through skill alone. This is where Bird's assessment becomes especially compelling because it highlights what he believes makes Caitlin Clark such a rare talent. He reportedly sees in Clark many of the same qualities that defined his own legendary career: an exceptional basketball mind, remarkable shot-making under pressure, and, above all, the unique ability to elevate the performance of everyone around her. But Bird also recognizes something far more troubling. Instead of being free to focus entirely on maximizing her immense potential, Clark often has to remain alert for unnecessary physical play and actions that go beyond normal competition. In Bird's view, that reflects a larger problem. Rather than pushing themselves to reach Clark's level through preparation, discipline, and hard work, some opponents choose to challenge her in ways that have little to do with basketball skill. He reportedly pointed to a recurring pattern in which Clark seems to absorb the most physical contact when she is least prepared to protect herself. Bird described that approach as one of the lowest forms of competition the sport can produce. Those remarks quickly became a major topic of conversation throughout the basketball world. Bird also drew comparisons between Clark's experience and the physical treatment he received during his own Hall of Fame career. Yet he emphasized an important difference that, in his opinion, makes Clark's situation even more remarkable. At only 22 years old, Clark is already facing challenges and scrutiny that many professional athletes never experience over the course of an entire career.
She's not a phenomenon. Tiger was. LeBron was. Taylor Swift is. Caitlin Clark is.
Clark is not only dealing with intense pressure on the court, she is also carrying the expectations that come with being widely viewed as the face of women's basketball. Meanwhile, one part of Bird's reported comments has spread rapidly across social media. According to this account, Bird argued that if the WNBA allows star players to be repeatedly targeted without meaningful consequences, it risks sending the wrong message. In his view, players who cannot keep pace through talent and preparation may begin believing that questionable tactics are an acceptable way to stay in the spotlight. He reportedly warned that this creates a dangerous standard, one that could discourage the very athletes who are helping elevate the league. Bird also expressed concern about the example being set for younger fans. He believes the game should inspire children to value skill, discipline, hard work, and sportsmanship, not to think that taking advantage of vulnerable opponents is part of winning. Perhaps the most memorable part of his comments, however, focused on Clark's future. Bird reportedly predicted that every hard foul, every attempt to intimidate her, and every controversial moment would ultimately make Clark even more determined to prove herself through her basketball ability alone. He compared her experience to the physical tests he faced early in his own NBA career, when veteran opponents constantly challenged him to see whether he could handle the league's intensity. But Bird emphasized what he believes is a major difference. Clark is facing those challenges while also carrying unprecedented media attention and the expectations that come with being one of the WNBA's most recognizable stars. That is why, according to this perspective, Bird's support for Clark carries so much weight. It is presented not simply as support for one exceptional player, but as a defense of the values that basketball is supposed to represent. In his view, Clark embodies the qualities that make the sport special: elite talent, court vision, competitiveness, and a commitment to playing the game the right way. At the same time, he reportedly warned against anything he believes could undermine those values. Bird suggested that the WNBA has reached an important crossroads. The league, in his opinion, must decide whether to prioritize protecting its premier talent and encouraging fair competition, or risk allowing controversies to overshadow the game itself. His message was straightforward: the choices made today could influence the league's direction for years to come. That leaves one question dominating the conversation. Will the WNBA respond to concerns about protecting its biggest stars, or will debates over physical play and player safety continue to define the headlines? Now it's your turn. What do you think about Bird's reported criticism of Alyssa Thomas and the broader discussion surrounding Caitlin Clark? Do you believe his concerns are justified, or do you think the reaction has been overblown? And perhaps most importantly, should the WNBA take additional steps to protect its marquee players while maintaining the physical nature of the game? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every one of them. If you enjoy in-depth basketball analysis that explores the biggest stories shaping the sport, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next breakdown.